I saw it. It's real.
It's truly frightening.
This isn't a map.
Gives you a home.
Oh man, I got this. Take one for me too, man. Yeah. Stop it!
Happy Halloween, horror fiends. This is Joe, the psychologist, here to talk to you guys tonight about a new, Halloween movie. And tonight, Ricky is over at New York Comic Con, so he won't be joining us. But that's okay. I wasn't here last week. I had a hurricane. However, tonight we are joined by two great fellas here. Albert, how you doing, brother?
How's it going, guys?
Good. Norin.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's going to be a blast. I'm very excited.
And of course, my brother JR.
I'm going to read an excerpt. That way it gets the whole mood of what we're going to talk about going.
Nice.
Midwestern town. You know its name. You were born there. It's Halloween 1963 and getting on toward dark. Things are the same as they've always been. There's a main street, the old brick church in the town square, the movie theater, this year with a Vincent Price double bill. And past all that is the road that leads out of town. It's black as licorice with under it an October sky, black as the night that's coming and the long winter nights that follow, black as the little town as it leaves behind. So yes, let's get ready to talk about this one.
Oh yeah. And tonight we are going to be discussing Dark Harvest, a 2023 film directed by David Slade, written by Michael Gillio and Norman Partridge, starring Casey Likes as Richie, Emery Crutchfield as Kelly, and Luke Kirby as Officer fucking Ricks. In a small Midwestern town, a deadly annual ritual unfolds when the mythical nightmare Sawtooth Jack rises from the cornfields and challenges the town's teenage boys in a bloody battle of survival. All right, JR honestly had been on us since he first saw it, and I think Rick got to see it, but I didn't have MGM. And if you don't know, this is available on Prime. So if you did not see the movie, stop, because we're gonna ruin some things for you. Go watch it and come back. If you have, you can rewatch it on Prime. But I was a little late on this one, and kind of glad we decided to do it for October, since it is Halloween and it's introducing us to a new Halloween villain. I mean, who knows? They can still do other follow-ups to it. The premise for it is kind of easy to do it. But yeah, let's talk about Sawtooth Jack. Norin, I'm gonna go to you first, bro.
Definitely. So this one I was excited for, and I wanted to be on the specific one because when this one came out in 2023, I was very excited. And just like I said, the design, the atmosphere, the Sawtooth Jack character, like I liked it. I didn't think it was too much of an overuse of CGI or anything because I kind of expected it a little bit, you know what I mean, for being a more modern horror film. This isn't like Pumpkinhead, like Stan Winston, where we're going all practical and everything. So I expected the CGI, and it's not that bad. I think what the character and they give us and everything, I like the whole, Pumpkinhead design and the folk lore background that goes along with Sawtooth Jack. I thought was really cool. So I was quite impressed with this movie in more ways than one.
All right, Albert, what did you think about Sawtooth Jack?
Honestly, I kind of wanted more because it's a creature feature. I'm all about the creature features, right? So when I saw the look of this creature, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. But as the story progresses and you find out what the creature is, I don't know if I'm trying to give away too much too early, but then it kind of makes a little bit more sense as to like why it looks the way it does. There was some stuff about it that kind of left me scratching my head because there's several scenes that I feel like he's just like obliterating people like the wind, right? And you're just wondering like, well, what did that? What on his body is able to just I don't know. I wish there wouldn't have been the cutaways as much, and I would have liked to seen what was creating this devastating blow to some of these characters that we get early on in the film. Again, without ruining too much, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, JR.
It was funny because when I first saw this movie, like I said, somebody put on Instagram, "Oh, watch this film. It's a hidden gem of 2023. Not many people are talking about it. It's worth a watch." When I started watching, the first thing I started thinking about was like, "Wow, this is like The Outsiders meets The Purge, based on around Halloween folklore." So it had a little bit of everything. So I was like, "All right, that's a cool concept," because it did have, the it's just weird. It's a small town, but you had the rich side faction. Then you had the, Richie, playing, like Dallas or Pony Boy from The Outsiders.
The West Side. They were the West Side boys.
Then you had the Purge setting around it. But I think what I like about this film is more the way it started. It immediately hit you with the folklore. And a lot of films wait till later on to basically tell you about the folklore. But it hit you right off the bat, telling you the story of basically what to expect about Sawtooth Jack. It's Halloween, what was 5 days before Halloween. So now you have all this preparation this town goes through. And I think that's what made it more interesting. And then, like, Albert was saying, there are some questionable things as far as his abilities. But sometimes, like, I feel like the ambiguity in it kind of leaves you like, all right, if they ground it a little bit more, would it had the same impact? So that's, but the thing is, it did have some great freaking kill scenes. And
It does.
And it shocked you. And you didn't see it coming. And that's what, like, when you get the first one, you're like, holy shit, okay. All right, this thing is no joke, man. But yeah, I love the folklore, man. I love how it felt original. I think that's what I like about it. It felt very original because you have, your small town setting. But I think this took an interesting turn, especially when you realize the twist of not only the folklore, but the town people themselves. So yeah, I'm anxious to dive deeper into this one.
So instead of commenting what I was going to say, I'll put it into the questions because Albert started going there and then he stopped. And then JR started going there and then he stopped. Was that I found the juxtaposition of the fact when he walked around, he was just really slow. But then when it came time to kill, he was Speedy Gonzalez. So okay, so I'm gonna go instead of because it's what I was gonna comment on. So I want to hear what you guys might want to say because I'm watching and I'm like, he's taking his time walking into the church. That motherfucker just ran and sliced up a bunch of people. So Albert, go ahead.
One minute he's like this all-powerful supernatural thing, and he's like, "Are we cussing on this?" He's fucking people up, and then all of a sudden he's walking up to the church and he's almost seeming like he's getting beat up no problem when he's out in the open. So it just kind of threw me as, where did all these powers go? Where he was just like here, there, and then he's like cutting people up, and then now he's just kind of like. So I that kind of did throw me off. Like he's either powerful or he's not, or did he lose his power because of the church? Like I was trying to make it work for the movie. I like to, suspend the belief a little bit. Like I like to try to get into the film. So.
All right, Norin.
There's one specific scene that bothered me, and it had to do, I think this scene was near the church, and it's when Richie and the girl run into Sawtooth Jack, and he has the gun, and she's like, "Oh, do it, like shoot him now, like what are you doing?" And then like he realizes when he looks at a specific item on the character, and then all of a sudden he vanishes. Once that guy comes out of the church with the shotgun or whatever, or the character, he's gone. Like Sawtooth Jack is just vanished off screen. You see the two kids and then they run off and you don't see him anywhere. So like Albert was saying, there's some cutaway editing choices that kind of made this film a little wonky where you had to reach in some areas because you're like confused for a second. You're like, huh? Like what did just happen?
Junior, what'd you think?
You know what I feel like when I watched it? I felt like almost they didn't want to give away too much because they're banking on the success of the film for a sequel, and then maybe the sequel opens it up more. So I felt like they were holding back because I mean, the one thing I kept thinking is like, all right, so when he gets close to the church, he weakens. But then if he makes it to the church, does he sacrifice himself in order for the plague and famine to come and wipe out the town? So they didn't really dive too much into the deeper folklore of it, which I think if they did, you know,
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if it was maybe like a budget something, or maybe they shortened up the writing to make it a shorter film.
I was gonna say it's writing. You just like take on some other scenes, and then you add in the folklore about the origin of this thing.
And I think they kind of geared more towards the Richie character, and then later on in the film, when the twist started happening, they started veering more towards the brother. You know, so I think it's the choice that they made as far as the flow of the film was if they would have focused more on the folklore itself, and I forgot the name of the guild, with the Harvest Guild.
The harvest.
Yeah, the harvesters.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, we didn't get to know a little bit more about them either. So they left a lot of things vague. And, you know, the only thing after I watched the movie and watched the second time, I was like, all right, I think they're getting for a sequel to explain it a little bit more. So they're probably going to go even further back into town, you know, further back into the history of town. But yeah, I agree that there's some moments that you're like, whoa, this dude is fucking people up. And then all of a sudden, you know, and then I don't know if it changes depending on who takes the form of Sawtooth Jack. So I don't know if that plays a factor too. So I mean, that's the thing. There's so many questions this film has, and I think that's what kind of held it back a little bit. It's like whoever decided, all right, we're going to focus on this more than this, was the wrong decision, because this film does have a potential to be. Honestly, it could be a good franchise. They've done very well. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Sawtooth Jack.
I mean, my thing is he had teleportation, pyrokinesis, super speed.
Super speed. I don't know what he did to those kids in that room, like where you see just the blood gushing out. I was like,
was that I guess was that telekinesis that he like used, you know, mind powers to just blow them all up? But it like I like the character. That's why I wanted to go back around, because I wanted to see what you guys had thought, because I like sitting there, I'm like, there could have been like a little bit more to the folklore, like give us, and it could have been when when Officer Ricks was explaining things at that moment, he could have added the extra stuff, or when the father was talking, like say, you know, what is going on, because obviously it involves the town. And my thing is that Richie's brother, because what the big reveal happens to be is what he recognizes, that it's his brother who is Sawtooth Jack. And this is where the town secret starts unraveling. I'm going to hear all you guys first, but I'm going to tell you straight up. From the beginning.
From the beginning.
It was not that, you know, because we're dealing, Jared, what year did you say the movie was?
1963.
63. So we got were there phones? I'm not sure if anybody called anyone, but there's no cell phone. You know, it's back in the day. You know, it's not like now. So it's a lot more smaller. Therefore, I'm like, got some village feel, you know, M Night kind of thing. Like I was like, something going on here. And like, yeah, I sat there, figured out that there was a secret in the town. And you know, for this one, Norin, I'm gonna go to you first.
Okay.
Did you figure out how soon did you figure out that the town had this deep secret once it came out?
So for me, this is kind of funny. I love this question too. When you messaged me this question on Twitter, I was like, well, for sure, I got so sucked into the atmosphere of this film that I loved the 60s aesthetic. I love the music is really good. The score is really good. And like I said, the cinematography and atmosphere, that I didn't want to think about it too much. So I think I just, in my mind, I kind of kept it back here. So I just was so in love with the characters and what was going on, him and the girl, like the parents, like you said, the conspiracy kind of small town thing going on. So I really didn't think about it until they got into the third act. And the moment he looks at the belt, is that moment that we were kind of talking about earlier, where he vanishes off screen all of a sudden, and we were like, what? He teleports now or something? Because the adult came out of the door, and the kids were confronting him, and now all of a sudden Sawtooth Jack is gone. So I thought that scene, that was probably literally specifically that scene when I realized, like, okay, this is their secret. And then I was like, well, where did he go? So it kind of all happened in that moment. So yeah, I just got so sucked into the atmosphere that I really enjoyed it and didn't think about it that much.
So they did their job then.
Yeah, for me, yeah, they accomplished, I think, yeah, what they wanted to do. Just for me, yeah, because I think that 60s aesthetic is just an untapped potential. We don't see a lot of horror movies set in that time period, and I think it's a really cool time period.
All right, JR, I'm going to go to you, Mr. Writer.
I agree with Norin. I didn't want to start thinking. I just wanted to like sit back and enjoy the film, because one of the things this film does is there's so many villains in this film. Even the character Richie's a villain himself. He's the rebel son who wants to leave town. So nobody in this film was actually a hero because they weren't put into those roles. So I liked that. I wanted to enjoy everything, because you had the cop who's an asshole who basically. Now, this is the one thing too. It's like, wow, there's only one road to this fucking town, because that's all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Guards. He just guards this one road, and I'm like, can't you find another way out? Is this
Right?
one road?
I'm cutting through the cornfield.
But I liked it that though, because it made the town feel a little bit more secluded. And the fact that, I forgot the name of the girl, but when Richie goes, wow, I never met somebody that came into town that was from another town to live here. So
Yeah.
I like that whole sense of that. Wow. And I agree with the village. This was so secluded that I wanted to just enjoy the storytelling being told, enjoy the characters, see where it goes. That even when I seen the bell, I was like, I'm not going to think about it. Just let me see where it keeps going, just to see how they end this film. But yeah, I mean, if you could really tell the story from the get-go, but I didn't want to think about it, because the only thing I kept thinking was like, all right, so apparently once they kill Sawtooth Jack, somebody definitely replaces the character, and then they get killed the next year. So what a shitty deal. And the fact that the biggest villains in this film are the fucking parents.
Yeah.
Because that one kid that he's trying to go home and knock on the door. And
Oh yeah, they're like, be a man.
And then he gets his head ripped off because of the parents. I mean, for me, yeah, I just wanted to watch the film, and I didn't want to overthink it too much. But yeah, I mean, if you'll definitely know from the beginning. But it's just like, I agree with Nord. The film captivates you that you just want to see everything through and see what happens.
Mr. Albert.
It's a really pretty movie. I mean, I agree with Norin as far as the cinematography goes. There's a couple sets that kind of threw me off and made me feel like I was looking at a Netflix film, and that kind of pissed me off. It just kind of was like, it just took me out a little bit. Like, I want to let go, right? I want like my mind to wander when I'm watching these films. So when I saw specifically like the general store scene, it looked a little bit too clean and like put together, and just like, and I get that like things were probably kind of like that, but it felt like a set to me. So did the movie theater scene, right? It was just like a little bit too perfect. There's certain scenes like that throughout the film that were just like, it kind of kicked me back out and like, oh, I'm watching a movie. But as far as the secret goes itself, I think it was the belt buckle. As soon as the kid, his brother realizes and he sees the belt buckle, I'm like, those bastards. So that's basically, and then the shitty ass cop, him going over to the parents' house, like talking shit to the dad and stuff. I was like, okay. I honestly thought it was worse than that. I always thought he was fucking the mom or something, but
I wouldn't have put it past him. He was evil. He was pretty dark, that guy.
By the way, that Luke Kirby, I've seen him in a lot of stuff. He's been does a lot more lighthearted roles. This was really like, when he like, I'm like, wow, I've never seen this side of this guy. Like, it actually showed, his range, because look him up. You have seen him in a lot of things, and he's played a lot of supporting and starring, but nothing like this role. This is like the first time, even though a couple times he got a little bit on the overboard. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off? I'm trying to practice not cutting people off. Are you done, Albert?
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, shit, for me, like, I'm not gonna lie, when it started, I didn't go thinking about like the yearly thing. It was after they gave him the car, and as you said, you see him drive off, and I'm like, there's like literally no other lights. I know that they said there's no stop signs, but there's like
there ain't no stop signs.
no lights
road.
but there's no lights at all. And then when he starts asking if they've heard from him, and it was postcards, and I'm like, I wonder. So the whole premise of the movie is you got to be fast. You can tell there was something was going on, and you can tell that since the goal was to be the fastest, that means the previous year's person was the fastest one, and that's when I was like, oh, so this is like a town thing, and obviously when you take the poor family out of the west side and put them into, the other side of the street to make them rich and live in the nice area, that the town, like, that the kids were being sacrificed. And when Richie wanted to do it, they kept telling him that he couldn't do it. I'm like, well, why are you stopping him? I mean, the kid wants his fucking car. He wants to get out of town. You're like, oh, 2 members of the family can't win it. They're going to make you rich. So that's why, like, for me, I literally, honestly, it was within him getting in the car and taking off and then asking for if they've heard from him that I was like, oh shit, so this is the whole entire town thing. And I know that David Slade, if hopefully he signs up for it, because he did 30 Days of Night. And if you guys have not seen Hard Candy is an awesome fucking movie. You seen it, Norin? Like, that is an awesome movie. So he directed this, and once, because I didn't look anything up, I'm like, I'm gonna go in blind on this. But when you saw the kills, and then I read, I'm like, I totally can see David Slade, like the way that people died in 30 Days of Night. No wonder these people died the way in this movie. So yeah, for me, the town secret part was, kind of saw that pretty quickly. Didn't hate it, but I wanted to. Then at this point, since I figured it out, I wanted to know about the Harvest Guild. I wanted to know, why it is that they have to do this, and how this, kid becomes, Sawtooth Jack, and how does he get all these powers? And like, I had so many questions, and which is okay, because then that's how a sequel is pretty much, created. I was gonna say that the reason that Sawtooth didn't run to the church for me was because he saw his brother. His brother didn't kill him. His brother was now trying to help him. And at that point, because he burned down their house before he headed to the church. So he goes, so I gotta fucking do this now. All right, well, burn down my old house because my parents sacrificed me for this fucking bullshit. And I got to walk over there. And instead of just going, because he wanted to go out, I mean, I wouldn't want to stay looking like him. But that's another thing. I wanted to know, like, was it in the ground that he got elongated? I always say that word wrong. I don't care. Elongated. And like the way that he looks, like, there was a lot of questions on there. Which I'm sure if anybody's, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Go to the ratings, the closing thoughts. I'm going to go to JR first.
And for me, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I thought the kills were freaking awesome, And then I have the name of the actor here too, because you talk about 30 Days a Night, and Mark Boone Jr. is in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was a store owner, and once again, a brutal death.
He
So
fucking
this
died
dude,
horrible.
hey, listen, I want to be in your movie. Just kill me the worst way you could possibly kill me, And yeah, like I said, like the kills were freaking amazing. I wanted to see more kills. It was kind of funny how the kids were turning on each other as well, and some of those kills were pretty brutal. But yeah, this movie, I think it's there is a lot of ambiguity in this film, and I do feel like that maybe they are building up for a sequel because that's the best thing to do. Don't give away too much, and then when the sequel comes, you kind of could go. They could go back in time a little bit more, like do a prequel to it. But definitely interesting character in Sawtooth Jack. The twist of the premise of this town is just pretty cool. The fact that we don't have enough on the Harvest Guild either, so that's another thing they could go into. For me, I would love to see like a backstory about the cop. What made him become the asshole he is, and did his son get basically sacrificed? So you get a feeling there's a lot of things, dark secrets with all these characters. For me, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4. If I would have gave it more, it would have been more kills, and I would have loved to see when he walked down in that freaking in that little was it like a little bunker with that all those kids.
All the yeah.
But that was a cool scene with the blood coming out and just
Mm-hmm.
the slow freaking. I mean, I was like, holy shit. But yeah, for me, it's a 4. I would definitely. I hope they do a sequel because I think this could be a very interesting franchise if done correctly. Where the sequel they could go a little bit more into the folklore. Then when they do another one afterwards, you could go to the Harvest Guild a little bit more. So there's a big opportunity to make this into a nice franchise if done right. But yeah, definitely it's definitely worth the watch.
All right, Rick. Now I understand what you're talking about. What I'm about to do. So, as far as Rick's, I think what may have been. This is just my which way a prequel would be good. He may have had a brother. His brother was the one that got to. Now he's stuck here. And now I'm going to enforce this shit, because I want it, even though it's not a great win because you don't find out about it. So, I mean, he's actually saved himself, but still. And I thought that the scene when he went into the bunker, it was like a nod to like The Shining and to Johnny Depp's death in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like when it came out, I'm like, ooh, nice little for the horror people. We're watching this. I'm like, that's very Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street of you. So I did like that. That I would have liked to also seen it, but it left that mystery of, damn, he fucked them up if the blood's just gushing out of there right now. I mean, it's like just flowing right out. All right, Norin, your score, any final thoughts, any last things of the movies you want to hit on?
Well, definitely, I think a lot of us touched on the fact that there's possibility for a sequel or prequel. The most interesting thing to me would be diving more into the folklore and the history of the town. So going backwards would be the most sense. Maybe even going back to the time when they failed and that like the big Dust Bowl happened. They actually lost to Sawtooth Jack just to see what actually happens in that event. So that would be really cool as my idea for a prequel. And then in terms of the feeling of it, I would probably go a 4 out of 5. Yeah, because this is a very strong atmospheric folklore film. It's like JR was saying, it's very unusual and unique for our time, for real. Like that's why I noticed it when it came out in 2023, because I was like, there's really not anything like this right now going on. But there are moments where it does kind of take you out of it a little bit. There's editing choices that are kind of wrong, and there's more in-depth stuff that could be done. So it's a great template for future films. So like I said, I hope they capitalize on this and they're able to do more in this universe, because I would be down for more movies.
All right, Mr. Albert.
All right, so I'm used to scoring out of 10, guys. I'm not used to this whole 5 out of 5 thing.
Okay,
but I'll do my best. So I had 5 out of 10, so I guess that's going to give it a 2.5 out of 5, right? I don't know. It feels like a Netflix movie to me. I was super excited when I realized that it was David Slade because, again, Hard Candy and 30 Days of Night, one of my favorite vampire films. It's so brutal. So like even
the best
over the top camera scenes, like when he's like the town's getting attacked, it's just beautiful. And like some of those shots in this film made me like feel like, okay, like this movie's, it just looks real good. I like loved the look of it. So for me, the strongest thing about this film was the story. but I felt like it maybe needed a little bit better delivery. And to get into the lore, I would have liked to see something like back from the 80s where they cut to like a scroll with a bunch of writing and someone narrating like some shit, right? So in like some fucking creepy voice, and like let's learn more that way instead of having to like show everything, right? So yeah, that's where I'm at with them.
All right. As far as for me, I will say, JR mentioned like the purge thing. So I have like some mask here because some of the cool parts in this movie were the mask. So for my score, and then like the hype behind the movie, I'm gonna say is one of those. For me, it did kind of live up to it. I was happy with the movie. I wish I didn't figure out the twist so early. You guys got the experience I probably should have gotten, is the one thing, because it was like for when you saw that, you're like, oh shit. But for me, I figured out. So then that's where I was left in. Okay, so you gave away this. Tell me why. So, however, I still like David Slade's direction in this. The kills were fucking awesome. It was beautifully shot. Albert, one of my favorite scenes from 30 Days of Night is just when it's just the white snow, because it's coming from above. So everything else is black.
Yeah.
You got the white snow, and all you see is just red, like splattered like a fucking Pollock painting. That would have been a nice touch here. So, yeah, for me, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I probably, once we get some more, I'll like it a little bit more. I didn't hate it, but, I like Sawtooth Jack. Now, let's find out some more about him. Norin, your idea should be the third part. Like we should get the Richie's parents and Sheriff Fricks when they're younger should be the next one, and then let's go ahead and find out about when, like JR said, they showed up and everything went wrong. Yeah. All right. Any last thought, guys?
I got one. What did you guys think of the kill? Richie's boy, who was like the badass of the group, when he's running and whoosh, his head gets sliced in half.
It's probably the best kill of the movie, in my opinion. Like that was like the cool like scene that grabbed you. That happened really close to the beginning, right?
That was the middle, yeah.
Okay.
They got dispatched really fast because that was kind of that scene. They had two scenes like that because there's one in the beginning where they see him in the corn, so they just take off running, like booking it after him.
Yeah. Well, there's this boy that got cut in half. He's flying in the air. All of a sudden, you see his body. I mean, definitely more kill scenes like that in the next one.
Well, and it's funny because they took out the main guy's friends. Like right, like it's not something you see in a horror movie that all of his friends get decimated, and now he's just left with Kelly. Excuse me. He's left with Kelly, the girl that ran the theater, but they all go in there to kick ass, and he walks out of there, and all three of his friends are dead. So yeah, that a little bit more of that
because his brother didn't kill him.
I think we're all on the same page, though. We could have used a lot more lore and backstory on the creature of Sawtooth Jack.
Totally.
I actually thought JR was gonna hate this movie. I don't know why. I just had a feeling he was gonna rip this movie a new hole. So I was kind of surprised that he liked it.
You're gonna be excited just because you want to see where they're gonna go.
Yeah,
and that's why I enjoyed it more, because the fact that, like, when we all like Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead's amazing.
Then when we seen Pumpkinhead 2, not for nothing, I was a little let down with the whole backstory of Pumpkinhead, because that's the wrong way to answer how this Pumpkinhead survived. Now you have a character, Sawtooth Jack. Like, all right, give us the real history. Let us know who was the first. I'm curious who the hell was the first one to sacrifice their kid.
Yeah. Well, and I like the post credit with the dad, basically telling him to torch the town down.
Yeah.
So that's where another one, it alludes to prequels, because the dad put an end to it. you know, or unless, you know, Richie just goes to another town and now all of a sudden Sawtooth Jack finds out that he can go past, like as Albert said, just go through the cornfield. There's
There ain't no
probably a
stop
road,
signs. There's no
probably a
stop
road
signs.
right there that you could have jumped on instead of that one road.
One road.
But yeah, no, I think, you know, because obviously there's people who watch horror movies all through the year, like us, and then there's those who watch horror movies just during Halloween, and I can see where Dark Harvest is going to fall into, you know, for during the Halloween season. You know, it's Halloween themed. I did love that it's back into the 1960s, where you have taken all, like, the strongest thing they can get is actually a gun. You know, they're not going to show up with, you know, a fucking grenade launcher, like, you know, from Aliens, or like they're not. It's just so minimal. You know, it's payphones. There's no cell phones. There's no way of looking up stuff. Like, it's just you yourself without any of these devices and the shit that we have available. So I love the simplicity of going back. Like Norin, you said, we don't have a lot that's going back in those times. Those movies were made during that time, which are the classics. But to go back to that time, which is sometimes we love, I think like Totally Killer. I love that because it was back in the 80s. And again,
That was fun. Yeah, that was a cool one.
Yeah, there was no cell phones. Like, it showed you what it was like to be in the 80s. So going back to the 60s, it's another untapped. Like, you're talking about people with even less of the knowledge that we have now in the 90s, 2000s, 80s. Like, it's so, like, everything would be shocking to those people. So it was great that the writer went back to that time and that his book got turned into the movie to show this, because again, I gave it a 3.5, but it's still, for Halloween, it's a good movie. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a good starter one, because there is some gore, but you know, overall, I was gonna say,
Oh yeah, like the
I
entry level.
I was trying to think.
little kids.
No, not entry. I'm like, wait, can you put, no, it's not entry level. All right, well, Albert, Norin, guys, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so
Brother
much.
JR, the villain, and I am Joe. Make sure to subscribe. We will provide you guys in the description Norin and Albert's pages for the YouTube. Happy Halloween.
That's right.
I don't say stay scared. It's ta-ta for now.
Peace.